So Connor, as we start out here, I think it's only appropriate I wish you a happy anniversary.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As we record, happy anniversary. What number is this for you?
24. Woo.
24. It's almost a quarter of a century.
I know. And it's like a generation,
So,
which
all
means
right.
which means I've been with my wife a lot longer, especially when you add the dating in, more than half her life, which is really a strange feeling after I have monopolized a lot of this woman's existence. You feel a little guilty.
So tell me, like how long have you guys been together? Like total?
Well, I guess, and add on 3 years to that because we dated on and off for about 3 years. So yeah, 27 years, man. I mean, that's a career right there.
Man, 1997.
Yeah, about
Okay.
1998, somewhere around there. Yeah,
Okay.
somewhere around there.
How'd y'all meet?
Well, great question. So her uncle was a Catholic priest at my church, and I was at church, and I kind of became friends with him, and I was thinking about becoming a priest. Actually, I was thinking about the ministry. I was always, inclined towards that. And I saw his niece's picture in his office, and I remember talking to him about the priesthood and looking at that picture, saying, "Damn, your your niece is pretty good looking."
It's
And
a great thing to say to a priest, by the way.
so,
It's awesome. It's great.
so
Uh,
one day she came to visit him from out of town, and I recognized her right away and got her number at the end of that church service. And as they say, the rest is history. So that kind of sealed our fates right there. Yeah.
wow. That's so cool, man. That is so cool. Um, I love hearing that. How many kids do you guys have?
So the 16th, believe it or not, number 16 is coming any day. I mean, like maybe I get a text message in the middle of this and she's in labor. She's due on August 25th. And but she's got some signs of going a little early. She's 43 now, almost 43. So, pregnancy at that age, things go a little different. She's had a lot of kids, but yeah, this is our eighth girl, and we have eight boys. Believe it or not, all biological, no adoptions. One set of twins that are 6 years old, and what are the chances that the numbers would be 8 and 8? So yeah, that's it.
16. You have four times as many kids as I do. Like, and I thought we were busy. Like, how did you was this planned?
Nah, you don't sit down and plan something like this unless you're insane. And I'd like to think we're not clinically insane. No one sits down and aims for this. This is not a competition and see how fast we can have kids or anything like that. But just one at a time. We kind of took one at a time and assessed it prayerfully and physically, financially, psychologically, all those things. I said, all right, can we handle another one now? And we've said yes each time. And so here they are. And after you have one, you tend to like it more than not having it. So, you kind of keep going like that. And here we are.
16 kids. How old's the
Yeah.
oldest?
The oldest is 22, and his baby is due in September. And my second child, Mary, is 21, and she had a baby with her husband 3 months ago. And so yeah, so I now have a grandbaby who's 3 months old, and my baby is due any day. So I have a grandbaby older than my baby.
So this baby's aunt is going to
Yeah,
be 3 months younger.
you got it, man. Yeah.
That
So it's
is
like we're
wild.
the baby in utero. My wife, it's her name's Monica. We named her Monica, which is Saint Augustine's mother's name. It's kind of cool. Um, And Augustine was a total badass, by the way. I mean, Dad should know about Augustine. He was a great, great character in history. But so his mother, Monica, prayed for his conversion because Augustine was a wild man. He had a concubine, he had a kid out of wedlock. He was kind of a party guy. But Monica continually prayed for his conversion, and she eventually won. So we kind of like the story of Monica. But so it's whenever I'm like, we kind of joke around and yell in the babies, hello, Aunt Monica, because she's a little ant right now, in utero. It's kind of cool.
Have you slept in like a decade or just go without sleep?
Dude, I sleep pretty good. My wife is a superwoman. If you go to our website, welderfamily.com, which we're going to talk about later, I guess, you'll see my wife is like Miss Fitness USA. I mean, she's like mega fit. And so she's tough, she's smart, she's beautiful, and she's just always handled the baby and infant stuff really, really well because she knew I had to get up and go to work. So, I hear a lot of the horror stories of husbands not sleeping. And, if she ever needed anything, I'm there. But by and large, man, I go to sleep and sleep pretty well. She takes care of it. But as she's gotten older, in all seriousness, it's just harder physically. I mean, so she's had a baby, say at 22, 32 and 42, and it's a lot different at 42. So I'm trying to be as much help as I can, but especially when a woman's breastfeeding in the middle of the night, it's not much I can do. So I just roll over and go back to sleep. But we try really hard, especially the last number of kids, to make sure she gets sleep during the day, taking over with the baby and tell her to go in and take a nap. So that's the way we kind of have divided things up. But man, the secret sauce here is a wife who is rock solid, hard. I mean, she is strong. She's a strong human being. And she's worked out really hard throughout all of these pregnancies. I mean, she's still doing P90X and she's like, I mean, she's huge. Like it's all stomach, right? But she's out there in the garage every day with Tony Horton. So
Oh my gosh.
doing P90X3. Actually, she went back to P90X1 because she's done 3 so many times. She went back to 1. But she's out there doing stuff hard, and a lot of pregnant women, they get so beaten down that they just kind of become couch potatoes because it's hard and demanding. And my wife Ashley, she'd be a much more entertaining guest than me anyway. But the first like 5 kids, she was getting beat down, and she realized if I'm going to keep going at this as I get older, I got to turn my midday naps into midday workouts. And so she became like a fitness nut around the 6th or 7th kid, and she never looked back because this is a physically demanding job she's got to do, and or she so chooses to do. And so she's just superwoman. She really is.
I mean, to have 16 children and still be fit, to have 4 children and still be 2 children and still be fit. I mean, that's pretty amazing, man. You
It's
got a
hard.
winner there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I married up, as they say, big time.
So do you get like so for instance, from your own family as or friends even, when you announce you have another one coming, are they like, "Oh my God, again? Like, are you serious? Like, are you gonna stop?" Like, do you actually get a little bit of hate?
You got a lot of shock and awe. I think between like kid 5 and 10, people were just, "What are you doing?" It was a lot of almost kind of gross, like, "Oh, really, 10 kids?" But I think after that, it goes into another stratosphere, and it's people are like, "Oh, okay." I mean, they just expect it. So we're kind of at a different zone now, and it's actually a little bit more comfortable because people aren't like judging you in the same way. It's odd. You go into the from big family to mega family and people just kind of see it differently. But the thing is look, I think a lot of times people, they see like reality TV shows, they see these huge families, and they usually have like this Amish kind of mom in their head that's frumpy and kind of gross and let herself go. And then dad, who's just kind of a dork, kind of living vicariously through his kids and makes them feel manly by having a bunch of offspring and just kind of weirdos. And I think that's what people have in their heads. And then they meet, I mean, maybe I'm a weirdo, I don't know, but my wife is definitely not. So they meet her. And I think she's the poster child for, no, you can have your stuff together. Your kids can be cool and fit and good students and socialize and all these things that people worry about. Our family's just normal, and I think
Wow.
that's mostly due to her.
That's so cool, man. I went to your website before this and I saw a photo of you guys and yeah, I mean she looks amazing. She looks like a strong person. I'm married to a strong woman as well, and I will tell you, man, it does make a huge difference. Like to just be married to someone who's resilient, takes care of themselves, takes care of the things around the house. I mean, I mean, I'm not saying she does all of it, right? We help, but at the same time, like having that type of internal, like that's your North Star, right? That's just the way that they operate. I mean, that's awesome.
You know,
Um,
there's old sayings, behind every good man is a great woman kind of stuff. And it
yeah.
is so true. She's the secret sauce in this, and she's always enabled me to, you know, it's funny. I go around talking around the country about family issues, especially since this business and that I've launched, and I've written other parenting books. And I always feel like a little bit of a fraud because she's the one who's doing it in real life. She's running that family at home every single day, and I'm going around just the talking head. But yeah, I mean, we have a very clear idea of what our roles are in the family. And of course, at the deepest level, it's an incredible partnership. It's teamwork where we kind of share this role of visionary together. But yeah, we definitely are not real confused on our day-to-day responsibilities. And I think that's helped us keep peace. That doesn't mean we don't have conflict. It doesn't mean like we haven't fought like hell through the years on different things. And we have. I mean, anybody tells you they haven't is probably lying. But, you know, at the end of the day, we can survive those conflicts because we know we agree on the ultimate purpose of our family, our ultimate long-term goals. We're in perfect alignment, and we have that razor focused. I think in your intro sequence, you talk about a razor type focus on what your goals and objectives are, and that's what my wife and I have. And if you have that, talking to all the men out there, if you can get that with your wife, you can withstand pretty much any problem that comes up because you realize that small potatoes in regards to the long big picture. And if you don't have perfect alignment on and real clarity on the purpose of your family, then all the little problems are going to seem enormous and tear you apart.
Do you think this is one of the biggest problems with just married couples in general is we don't have that alignment, we don't have those roles identified. We're just more reactionary to things that come our way, and because we're reactionary, we're more stressed out, the relationship takes on more stress, the family unit takes on more stress, and we just kind of start to crumble and live our own lives within, under our own roof sometimes, I think.
Yeah, Larry, I think historically, like you could look at this theologically, or you could look at it from a historical standpoint. And I think, you know, ever since the French Revolution, which has been on my mind a lot because of the Olympics and everything, and the crazy woke stuff coming out of the Olympics. But the French Revolution was a real extreme focus on individuality, and you know, ever since then, the kind of the left side of things, the leftists in our culture, has been so rigorously focused on individuality at the expense of things like community and family units, you know? And so, way too much emphasis on, well, this is me as a man and this is my life. And then the wife has her life. And then we just kind of come together for certain things. No, no, no. This is like one flesh. We have to become one flesh together. It's a total merging of two free individuals into one flesh, one spiritual union that has to be strong enough to survive a nuclear explosion. And I think one of the reasons that people don't do that is way too much emphasis on me as an individual, all my needs, all her needs. And of course, we have those. I mean, each of us are made in the image and likeness of God as like individuals. But man, I had to forfeit a lot and I had to surrender a lot of my own desires, my own wants if I was going to make this marriage work. And she had to do the same. And it has to be done all the time, every single day in some little way. I think the reason that marriages fall apart a lot is because they say, well, this person's not fulfilling my needs as an individual and vice versa. What about the unconditional love, sickness and health, you know, richer for poor? What happened to those vows? Because, yeah, this is supposed to be a continual death to self, which, by the way, is how I become the greatest version of myself. You see any hero out there, firefighter, military, anything out there, any great hero throughout history, Larry, they were sacrificial. They understood how to lay everything on the line for something far greater than themselves. And my marriage and my family, my wife individually, is far greater than me. Will I lay down my life for that person and for that entity, which is my family, or not? Are they cramping my style? Come on. So, I mean, I think we have way too much individuality in our minds. And I think the greatest, strongest men are the ones who are willing to make a sacrifice. No greater love than for a man to lay down his life for his friend. And we have to do that metaphorically all the time for our kids, our wives, whatever it is. But that's the struggle. That's the battle every day. Is it me or is it them? And we have to
Mhm.
humbly ask ourselves that question each day.
I love that, man. I want to dive into your book, and I think you gave a great foundation there. So it's The Well-Ordered Family. And you guys can, if for those of you guys who are watching us on YouTube, I'm holding up this book right now. I started reading. I haven't gotten through the whole book yet. I started reading it though on a flight. I was telling Connor before we actually started today, and I got through the vision exercise, which I thought was such a beautiful foundation for family. So in here you've got six parts of this thing. You've got vision, you've got unity, systems, discernment, relationships, and metrics. I am curious though, before we get into vision, because I thought that was as I read that, I was picturing my family sitting around the table and we're having these conversations around, what are our core values? What are our visions for our family? How do we operate? Right. And then you give the exercises on how to extract all that incredible information. But I'm curious about the color codes on here. So you've got vision and unity in orange, you got metrics and systems in blue, and then relationships and discernment in red. Do the colors mean something? And if so, what do they mean?
Well, at the most fundamental level, vision and unity, which are kind of at the top of the circles together, they're colored together because they're the most closely related, right? So I kind of put the things that go close together. So vision and unity, you could almost think like the horizon, the sun, that's the long-term picture, right? It's like the color of the sun way out there. It's light. This is the light that kind of directs your path. And so you have to have a vision, whether you're in this podcast, when it was founded, you had to come up with a clear vision. Okay. Every company had to come up with a clear vision. Every athletic team had to come up with a clear vision of what they were going to try to do. Jim Collins, which you're probably familiar with from Good to Great, one of the best-selling business books out there ever. He said that 1% of success is vision, but 99% of success is unity or alignment around that vision. So, vision and unity are like two sides of the same coin. And so that's why I color coded them and made them yellow. Systems and metric, this is what helps things flow smoothly, almost like water, right? I mean, it flows. And in the business world, when you're talking about Lean Six Sigma or total quality control and other business systems that enable things to run smoothly, they do it. It's like a flow. They talk about flow, like flowing water. And so systems metrics are like two sides of the same coin, which we can talk about later. But then the last two parts, relationships and discernment, this is, if you don't get these things right, then you have a major problem, because these are real human beings that are on the line. And these are things that like pop up and scream at you like a red light. And, they're like, stop, you have a major conflict with your teenager. Stop, you have a major problem with your preteen who has an addiction on technology or something, like big issues that pop up. And it's like, well, this is my family. These are my loved ones. This is red alert, dude. This is when things get real. And so I have tools to help with that. And then the other red alert a lot that comes up in our life are the decisions. Do I take this new job? Do I buy this new house? Do I buy this car versus that car? How much do I donate to my church? These decisions, I have to choose between A, B, and C, or I have to figure out what the root cause of this problem is. That's discernment, problem solving, and decision making. And so those are things. So those last two, relationship and discernment, those are like red alert. They pop up at us, they scream at us. But the best way to handle those, the reason they're at the bottom of the circle, Larry, is because those don't get handled well unless you get the rest of the stuff going smoothly. And so you don't have to go sequentially 1 through 6, but I think a well-ordered family has these 6 things kind of nailed down or buttoned up in order to run real smoothly. And that's my goal, is to kind of help people do that.
So let's start with vision first, because as I read through that first chapter, I was like, I think most families go to metrics and systems first, right? We, if I'm guessing, is that right?
Bingo. You
Okay.
got it.
Okay. So, and it's really hard, I think, to hit a target unless we know exactly what our vision is, right? And let me ask you another question too that kind of came up for me as I was reading through this. I was like, man, if vision and unity have to come first, which by the way, sounds like common sense, but when we start to look at different ways we can operate within our family, we jump to the systems, I think, first. But I think that's a lot like we could climb to the top of a ladder, look out at the horizon, and like, oh shit, we got to the top of the wrong ladder here without that vision. So Why is it that why do you think most people don't even think about vision as a family?
I think they take it for granted. I just think that they assume that they're aligned on the big issues. But man, I've seen a lot of young people get married. They fall in love. The passions are hot. They're just, and they get married, and then when they get engaged, it all becomes about the damn wedding. You got bridezilla. It's just all these things, and usually they're young, and so they're getting their life going, and they're not asking these big long-term questions. It's like the preparation really sucks. So I give this story, Larry. I think imagine two young people, a man and woman, graduate college, and they say, "Hey, we're going to form a coffee shop together because we want to have a business. We both majored in business." So what are they going to do? They're going to go to the internet and they're going to research everything I need to know about starting a small business. They're going to figure out all the stuff. And they're going to ask themselves a whole lot of questions about that. But their main focus is going to be things like, oh, well, we gotta figure out what, how to make coffee good and how to pay our bills and what our social media plan is and what kind of coupons we're going to have, our inventory control and our scorecard, like lattes versus decaf versus whatever. They're going to be asking these things. But thankfully, like when they're in business, they tend to say, but you know what? Good business people have a vision statement or mission statement, and they have core values, and they might have a 10-year vivid vision or a picture of where they want to go. So, in business, I think we're a whole lot better at getting a clear picture of our long-term goals because in corporate America over the last 150 years, we've got really good at running businesses. Like there's a lot of resources out there. It's sort of like if you decide to get really fit, then there's a lot of resources out there. If you want to be fit, you can. There's no the resources are plentiful. And so we get really analytical for business, but when it comes to marriage, we're running off emotions. And then we're young in our life, so we're just kind of putting together a whole lot of little things each day to kind of make the day go smoother. But we forget that the purpose of this marriage is whatever you want it to be. For us, it's like helping each other get to heaven, helping our kids find their vocation. We have to think long term. We're a whole lot better at that forming a coffee shop, right? I mean, 22-year-olds get together and write out a vision statement and core values for their damn coffee shop, but they won't do that for their marriage. So when we get our corporate hat on, we get smarter. And when we go home, we're a lot dumber. It's like, and I've seen this, man. I've been like on my A game at work. I got 4 different businesses I'm CEO of. And when I'm at work, I am like the man. I'm on my A game. And then I go home and I'm kind of a sloppy fool. And so I got tired of that. And I said, why can't I bring my business competency to the house and let my wife and kids see Conor as a leader like I am at my job? So I started bringing home some of these business techniques, trying to help the family, run more smoothly. But essentially, family stinks at asking these long-term questions. We take it for granted, and we're living off passions as young people who are in love. And when the kids come, man, it just one day we just rolling with it every day. But we got to work on. Here's my final point on that. Just like in business, we have to work on the business, not just in the business. We got to work on the family, not just in the family. Because as you know, with no matter how many kids you got, your day is filled with stuff. And you have to step back and say, this is an entity, and I need to put my visionary hat on and really work on this family because it deserves the same amount of attention and expertise and clarity of thought as my business does. And that's what I've tried to do here at Welder Family.
That's so cool, man. Give me an example of what is your family vision. Now, in your book, I'll share with you guys in Conor's book. Go pick up a copy of it because his book is not just like, hey, here's how you like. He literally gives you the exercises to do this, which is great. But tell me what your vision is as a family.
Yeah, the purpose of the Gallagher family is to help each other become holy so that we can each accomplish our vocation. So our emphasis is on our vocation. Okay. Now we aim to achieve this by, it's the next part of our statement. We aim to achieve this by charitable interactions, generosity, and prayer. And so I have the ultimate goal of we want to be holy. That's like the biggest thing, right? And then one step back. Well, why? Well, I want all of my kids to find their vocation. And that vocation, Larry, that could be a specific job, or it could be their spouse, or it could be maybe they're going to go into the ministry. I got one son who's in seminary. I got two who are married. I mean, those are vocations. Those are like, what is God calling you to do in your life? And so I want to help them. I think that my job with my wife largely is to help my kids find what their calling in life is. And that could be very practical, like what job, or it could be who to get married to, so vocation can mean a couple different layers there. But then we have to figure out, okay, what are the core little things we're going to do to try to achieve that? And it's charitable interactions, because we fight like hell in the house sometimes, and we like the kids to keep the peace, and we want to be prayerful. And so, yeah, so that's ours, but I want everybody to kind of create their own. Yours would be totally different than mine. Everybody should be different. Everybody should be a little unique and use the exact phraseology and terminology that resonate with your family. Maybe it's even kind of means the same thing, ultimately, but you need to phrase it in your precise way. There's no one size fits all here.
When you guys created the vision, was this you that created that vision statement, or was this you sitting down with all of these kids and your wife saying like, hey, we need to cast a vision, for our family of how the Gallaghers are going to operate. And I collectively want to do that with you guys. Or were you just like, hey, here's the vision of our family as the leader of the family?
The answer is definitely it's a collaborative effort. Now, I think a leader has to kind of go into a meeting with his team, with an idea of like where he wants to go. And actually, so I had written, the first time I did this probably 4 or 5 years ago, I wrote a draft for myself, and then I kind of pitched it, but it was very much, hey, here's the idea, guys. My teenagers and my wife, of course, but I mean, my teenagers, middle school kids, even younger kids, like they really started contributing and shaping it. And it's changed a little bit over time, So dude, this is collaborative. It can't be, this cannot be a monarchy. If you just like being a leader at work, I mean, it's not a democracy at work. I'm the boss. I can make final decisions, but damn, I only pull rank if I like really, really have to. I mean, it has to be intense for me to overrule my executives. You know what I mean? So 99.9% of everything at work is a collaborative decision, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing at my house. I mean, it's funny, like the old joke. What is it? I make all the big decisions and my wife makes all the small decisions, but in 24 years of marriage, there's never been a big decision. So, it's like, no, it's collaborative, dude. This is not where like the patriarch of the family comes in and, Moses comes down the mountain with the 10 commandments, dude. No, you bring your kids into it. And the younger your kids are, sometimes even the better they can contribute. And so I'm a big proponent is like, how young can you get your kids involved in the whole system here, family meetings and coming up with scorecards for your family and everything else we'll talk about. But the kids have an insight into your family that you and your wife are kind of oblivious to, because you guys are just stuck in the running every day. Kids are powerful when it comes to understanding what's really going on in a family. So please include your kids as much as you can.
So just out of curiosity, I'm on page 25 right now, and
Yeah.
you've got the family master plan here,
Yeah.
which is the vision statement, the family motto, the family beatitude, the family patron, core virtues, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, 3-year goals, 10-year portrait, and family signatures. So does the family master plan come when you complete all of these? Is that correct?
No, I mean,
And all of these meaning like the vision, unities, metrics, and systems.
no, it's more like this is all part one kind of summary. So like if you're looking at this
Okay.
family master plan, think of that as the aircraft carrier for vision, right?
Okay.
And that's like the Constitution of the United States. Like you write a constitution, well, now you have to actually go run the country. It's kind of, it's a brilliant document that the founders wrote. Thank you. But now we have to actually go do stuff. And so that's what this is, man. This is like the constitution of your family. This is the aircraft carrier from which everything takes off and lands. And it's beautiful and it's powerful, but your family can still totally suck if you have a beautiful, perfect vision statement, right? I mean, just like a business, you can have everything perfect hanging on the wall, but if you don't run the damn business well, it's going to collapse. So again, this is 1%. Now it's a really important 1%. By the way, so one other thing about vision is kind of cool. I learned recently that autopilot on a plane, right? So like if you fly from the East Coast to San Francisco, let's say, and you're off by 1 degree, you end up 50 miles off your target, right? Because it's
Right.
just, we've all heard that kind of like a 50-mile rule thing. But I heard that autopilot makes like hundreds of changes per second, dude. It's like, it's so fast. It's just constantly tweaking what's going on with that plane to make it the most efficient path to the destination. And I think that's what vision is. A lot of times people think that they write up a vision statement, whether it's for their business or family, and they hang it on the wall, big, nice picture frame, and they walk away. But you have to constantly make those adjustments like that autopilot, or else you're going to end 50 miles off your target. You have got to make the changes. A visionary in a business is a dynamic, constantly evolving role. A lot of CEOs are changing their title to visionary because it kind of gives them a better idea of what they're doing. And I love that. I call myself visionary here in most of the businesses because I want to shape that vision. I get somebody else to run the day to day. So I think with this family master plan, this kind of shows you the vision overall for where your family is right now, and what your ultimate family goals are. But man, it's worthless if you don't really implement it on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I guess that's probably where the unity falls in, right? Because we have to constantly calibrate where we're at. Do you mind if we spend just a little bit more time on vision though?
Of course, man, that's my favorite
Um,
subject. So yeah.
yeah, because I think that this is probably the most unique because people like you were saying, people want to jump to like, hey, like how do we share our calendars? Right. It's
Yeah.
like that's a system thing. Like how often do we go to the grocery store, use Instacart or somebody's going like that's all system stuff, right? It's like these to-dos, but the visionary thing is really fascinating to me. So like you have in here like the family SWOT or SWOT, which is SWOT.
Yeah.
Um, explain that to me.
Yeah. Well, it's the most fundamental business analysis tool, a SWOT analysis. And, so every business, no, small to mega billionaire businesses, they go off on strategic retreats and they always begin with a SWOT analysis. What are our strengths, weaknesses, our opportunities, and threats? So strengths and weaknesses, Larry, are of internal origin, right? That's like our attributes, things we good at, things that we're good at, things we're not good at. Opportunities and threats are those things outside of us. We have an opportunity to go conquer this land, or we have this barbarian threat coming in from us over here, right? So I've done that at business a million times. And I said, look, let's do a SWOT analysis on the family because your family has strengths and weaknesses that are kind of unique to you. But then, you have opportunities and threats. Maybe a threat, it could be anything like technology is a major threat coming in at us because you're struggling all day to keep your kids off the cell phones. A threat could be, hey, your kids, I think you say an 18-year-old kid's going off to college. That's a wonderful opportunity that your kid's going off to school or whatever, but it can also be a threat in the sense that you're going to have less contact. How are you going to maintain that relationship with them gone? So it's a little threat of like causing a little distance in the family that you'd like to maintain a closeness. So that can be a threat. A threat can be an annoying neighbor that you don't like. I mean, it could be whatever it is. So doing a SWOT analysis on an annual basis, because it changes, your family's dynamically changing. Doing that SWOT analysis is like the first thing. In fact, when I'm taking people through my system here, the very first thing we do is not write a vision statement. No, the very first thing we do is a SWOT analysis because that gives you the temperature. It takes the temperature of what's going on in your family right now. And 6 months from now, it might be a little different. So, SWOT analysis, if you don't do anything else, it's so simple and easy to do. Just take out a piece of paper, draw those 4 quadrants. And by the way, the kids love doing it. Like the little kids, they know the weaknesses. They're like, Daddy yells too much. I mean, whatever it is. I mean, they totally get the weaknesses. And kind of the bratty teenager stage, sometimes they feel like they don't want to participate. But when you say, hey, can you list some of the weaknesses of your family? They're like, boom, tell me when to stop. So it's a great way to engage the family. And it should be a lot of fun. It's actually very fun if you have the humility to go through it and to laugh off some of your weaknesses.
Well, I love the fact that you put in examples here because I would be scratching my head. I'm like, what's like if my 8 year old says this is a weakness, like how would I know if that's because I think that these are things that we don't really think of. We think of them, like you said, like in a business. We don't really think of them here. But like, just so you guys know in the audience, right? I'm just going to call out a few strengths that Connor lists in the book. So humor is one. We're physically active. We enjoy time together. We're prayerful, fiscally responsible, orderly, strong emotional support, right? Those are some examples. Weaknesses could be poor communication, lack of trust, too much conflict, dysfunctional logistics, unresolved issues, financial instability. Um, these are really, really good. As far as like opportunities and threats, I love this because it's like new educational or career options, getting involved with church groups, finding better network of friends. It's opportunities. Threats could be debt, inflation, bad influence of friends, too much cell phone use, improper sites or media consumption. So let's just say we do a SWOT analysis with our family. We ascertain all the strengths, all the weaknesses. And I'm guessing as people are collaborating, like the thing that I'm visualizing is you either have like a whiteboard or like one of those huge like flip
Yeah.
charts and you're writing things down,
That's
correct?
what I'd used. I used a big
Yeah.
flip chart. I brought one home from the office. You can get them for like 20 bucks at Staples or something. But if not, you just do it on a piece of paper.
Yeah. I like that. And then let's just say you have all this. We're front and center. We're all looking at it like, wow, okay, right. This is our opportunities. These are our threats, strengths, and weaknesses. Then what do we do with that information?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so some of the other components of the, well, first of all, the SWOT analysis can help you shape the first time you do a SWOT analysis, it helps you shape your vision statement, right? It also helps you shape your core values or your core virtues, as I call them, right? So let's say one of your strengths is humor. And you got a couple really fun-loving kids in your home, and that's like one of your great strengths. Build on that. So like let me back up a little bit. Corporations figured out a long time ago that if they kept trying to fix people's weaknesses all the time, they're just gonna frustrate themselves. But all these self-assessment tests out there have really helped us figure out you get a lot more mileage, Larry, out of building on people's strengths, right? I mean, why try to turn a wide receiver into a running back and vice versa? Like if they have that natural proclivity to something, build on that strength. So when you're looking at your SWOT analysis and you see you have these strengths, that's probably something that comes easy to your family. You're usually good at things that kind of come easier to you. So now you can list those in the core virtue section on that same master plan, right? You can write some of those as core virtues and say, these are the attributes that we use to guide our decision making, to guide our behavior. And when we violate those, we're off course. And so the I think the SWOT analysis helps you build your core virtues because again, the key strengths that you have, God placed that in your family, in your heart, in your wife and kids. Well, you're able to say, look, we don't need to pick core virtues that are like trying to fix all of our weaknesses. You know, I mean, that's good, but it's a much easier way. And the path of least resistance is to build on those great strengths that you already have. And usually when people double down on their strengths, they have so much more joy, so much more peace. It's easier. Not, I'm not saying you can just ignore your weaknesses, but there's definitely something there about building on the strengths. Now, what about weaknesses? Well, another part of the system, we have a family scorecard. And on scorecard, like we're trying to measure certain things that we want to improve on. And I'm jumping ahead, but it's really the answer to your question. You know, whenever somebody gets really serious about anything in life, whether it's fitness, nutrition, anything, making a ton of money, they want to be a great investor, whatever it is, they start to measure things with precision. It's one thing that everybody who pursues excellence, if you want to be the world's greatest chef, I heard you mentioned that your son, I think the 16-year-old is in the marching band. He's a drummer. Did I
He
hear that right?
My 18-year-old, he's the drum major, so
Drum
he
major.
he leads the whole band.
Yeah, yeah. So the difference between a mediocre drummer and an excellent drummer is their ability to measure that beat with precision. Like, and he's measuring so much stuff in a blink of an eye, especially leading that whole band. Like, whenever we get serious, we start to measure, 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 measure. Okay. And you're going to I count my macros. I had to get rid of type 2 diabetes. And so I started counting macros and I do it every day. I got, I would never hugely fat, but I have a long history of diabetics in my family. And so I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I just ripped off 150 pull-ups and 300 push-ups and I got type 2. And they're like, yeah, you do. So I had to start really measuring my macros. What? Because I got serious about something. So when you got weaknesses, you have to start measuring things to kind of counteract those. And so we put some of those things on the scorecard to start measuring certain things that you want to start chipping away at to make headway. But let's you focus more on the core virtues because that's your goal, right? That's where you're really thriving and enjoying life. But we also have to start measuring some of those shortcomings too to start chipping away at it.
Mm. So, are you familiar with appreciative inquiry by chance?
No, sorry.
Okay. I just some of the lingo and words you're using. So that's one of the coaching disciplines that I that I got it was about 6 years ago. And basically what it is it's exactly what you're talking about. You know, the world is so consumed with solving a problem versus, you know, doubling down on a strength or, you know, being able to solve a problem so well that you actually surpass the problem and go much further than what you ever thought. Uh, so okay, we um we have the vision, the SWOT, the virtues. Do you then combine this? Like I noticed in your book too as well when you gave these examples, they weren't an I will or we will statement. They are we are statements, right?
Mm.
Which I think is really, really cool because I think when people think about a vision, they think of like, well, that's the future us. That's not the current us. But it was just something I caught, and I
Mm.
was curious if you could expand upon that.
So one of the things at the bottom of the family master plan is the 10-year family portrait. And there's a book out there called Vivid Vision that says that a business should like envision themselves in 3 years and write in the present tense and says, so I mean, you picked up on something really savvy there. So thank you for that. And it's like you envision yourself in 3 years from today and you say, okay, our customers love us because of this product. We are making this amount of money. This is for a business kind of side. And you're talking in the present tense as if you've already have accomplished that goal, right? I mean, and so visualization is a powerful tool. You've probably heard this, but there was an experiment a long time ago where they took people who had never shot a basketball and half the group was told to just start shooting from the foul line, and the other group was told to envision themselves sinking the shots, you know, for 5 or 10 minutes before they went out to the court. And then those people who envisioned, they hit way more shots than the other people. This is not a surprise. Again, visualization is something. All those Olympians out there doing something. They have sports psychologists now, big time, that really help their brain side of this. Like envision yourself doing it. So if you're in business, envisioning where your business is going to be and almost talk in that tense so that you almost are convincing yourself that you're there. Why not do the same thing with family? So, you know, 5 years ago, and this was a cool thing for me, Larry. About 5 years ago, 4 years ago or so, I did this for the first time, and I wrote what I call my 10-year family portrait, and I was envisioning the Conor Gallagher family 10 years from then. And I realized, oh my gosh, I could have grandkids by then, right? And I'm kind of young. I'm only 45. So I realized I could have grandkids by that time. And a light bulb went off, and I was saying, then I got to help my kids become parents. Like, if this could happen in 10 years, then I have to change what I'm doing now. Like, I have to parent parents. I have to parent my kids who are going to become parents. That's just not raising little kids. I'm teaching this young man and this young woman how to be a husband and a wife and a father and a mother. Envisioning myself 10 years from today helped me do that. And by the way, as we were talking about earlier, those grandbabies came a whole lot faster than I thought. So, you know, it came, but my parenting changed because I saw 10 years from today, I'm not going to be in the same situation I am now. And I said, okay, I'm going to help these kids become great spouses. I started talking to my kids. This is how you be a good wife. This is how you be a good husband. I told my wife, talk to your daughter about what it means to be a good wife and mother. It changed us from just like raising little kids to helping them find their vocations and to really live out that vocation as best as possible.
Mm.
Visualization is a powerful tool, man.
That is so true. You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I take my two older ones, not my younger one yet, but I will be taking my 10-year-old in 2025. I take them to all of our financial reviews. Like, so we sit down with our financial advisor. They know everything about our financial position, but they also do it because they have their own investments that they do.
Nice.
Yeah. But, and we started thinking about like, like, hey, you're 18, you're 16. I looked at my 18-year-old. I was like, you could be easily, you know, 4 to 6 to 10 years from buying your first house. And your car is not going to last another 10 years, right? So you need to be thinking about these things now, and so we're having these more like we're not having little kid conversations with these guys anymore, right? We're doing what you're doing, which is we're preparing them for adulthood. And that's a lot of what our conversations are all about, which is really fascinating to me. But that's reassuring that you say that, because I think we always want to parent in the here and now. We're not really thinking about the tomorrow and getting them really prepared for life. It's so I think you've really nailed vision, and we've spent the majority of this podcast talking about it. I do want to talk about um, I want to talk about systems.
Yeah.
And this could be Pandora's box, right? I mean, because with you as 16 kids, like there's got to be some serious systems going on. But like, I would just love to know for like, the average family, what is it, like 2.5 kids? Let's just call it 3 or 4 kids, right? And I'll tell you, selfishly, I'm super keen on this one because I told my 18-year-old last night, because he's the drum major. He's going to be at, you know, every Friday night, it's Friday night lights at our high school, right? So he's going to be doing the band. My 16-year-old, he's the starting center for the football team. And so we have that. My 10-year-old started football this year, and now my 8-year-old starting hockey. And I looked at my 18-year-old last night. And I'm like, listen, I just want to let you know, I was like, we will be at every possible band thing. I was like, but the band competitions, I don't know what our Saturdays are going to look like yet. I was like, we have, Lawson's football games are on Saturdays. So are Colton's hockey games. It's going to be really hard. And I was like, dude, we are about ready. Me and your mom were talking last night. We are about ready to enter in to the busiest 4 months we've ever had as parents, with four of you guys in super demanding things. And we've talked about how much we have to divide and conquer. And my wife and I are like, I feel like a total idiot just telling this to you, but we're completely overwhelmed because we're looking at the schedule. Like at the beginning of the month, I was like, "Hey, so and so wants to come over for dinner. What date do we have in August?" And she's like, "August 23rd." And I was like, "Okay, what else?" And she goes, "August 23rd." I was like, "That's our only day?" She's like, "That's our only day in September. I don't see anything." And I'm like, "What?" So like I'm super keen on just systems in general, like, and call it. I would love for you to pick 1 or 2 systems that are most common, like whether it's scheduling or calendars or activities or school. I don't know, but I'll
Yeah.
let you just take the reins and go.
No, it's awesome. First of all, I'll tell you, when we had, I think at one point in our family, we had about five, I think we had 5 kids on 4 different baseball teams at one time. And we used to be a mega baseball family. My oldest became a Division I collegiate umpire at the age of 18. He was the youngest collegiate one umpire in the country. And it was pretty awesome to see him out there as a freshman in college umping varsity Division I games. And it's weird to go to a baseball game to watch the umpire. It's kind of weird,
Well,
but
yeah.
but it's awesome. But I remember telling her one day, we had all these little league things going on. She's like, I don't know how to get the kid to this game over here. I said, it's easy. Just put him in an Uber. And she's like, you're crazy. That's not safe. And I'm like, you're right. Give him my gun, then put him in the Uber. You know, she was just like, what are you? So it was just kind of my little joke. You can't do it. That's the point. It's like, you can't. I mean, no, I am not recommending you put kids in Ubers with guns, but it's like an impossible thing. You can't bilocate. You can't do all of this stuff. But there's a couple things to just kind of give you comfort. Like you told your kid, I can't be there. It's good for your kid to not be there. They have to see that they're not the center of the world, And so like kids have to make sacrifices of attention from their parents. Sometimes they have to see that dad's got other kids too. And mom and dad are trying their best. It's wonderful that they see that you're trying to do all of these things. But if you were there every single time, every single day, it actually becomes a little narcissistic for kids sometimes. So it's good for kids to do without a little bit. So That's one just simple thing. But let's talk about systems a little bit broader. I love this topic. People say, how do you do it? I can barely do it with 2 kids. How do you do it with 15, 16 kids? My answer, Larry, is this. I'm not raising 15 kids. I'm managing environments. I manage environments. And they're like, huh, what does that mean? Well, here's what it means. What I've done in the systems part of this book, I explain that as a husband and wife, you guys are making what I call an ecosystem for your family. There are external environments that are kind of floating around your family. And I call it the strep test, because every family gets strep. And strep is an acronym that stands for the social environment that's coming in at your family, technological, religious, recreational. I have 2 R's in there: recreational, sports and band and swimming and all that stuff. Educational, that's like their schooling. And then professional, your work, your wife's work, your kids' work when they get jobs for the first time. So strep is these 6 external factors that make up your universe. And you can split them up different ways, but this is how I break down the ecosystem in which you're raising your kids. An ecosystem is a bunch of environments that come together to form kind of a self-sustaining cocoon that everything else grows within. That's what an ecosystem is. Well, you have your own, and it's different from mine. So one of the tools I have in there is what I call the strep test. I want you guys, everybody, I want families to analyze the social elements in your life. What are those social factors that are influencing your family? What are the technological factors? That's a major one. We all know it. What are the recreational and religious factors? What are the educational factors? And what are the professional factors? And once you analyze those, almost like strengths and weaknesses of each of those, you start to see, my tools help you see, oh, things are going great, but this part of our life is out of whack. Oh, this is going great, but we really need to make some changes over here. Here's the message I want to push, especially to dads. And I feel like more at ease talking to a listenership mostly of dads. You guys need to be empowered. You need to understand that you cannot outsource the vision for your family. You can outsource a whole lot of things, but when it comes to forming that ecosystem, that bubble, that environment that your family's growing up in, you are the architect of that. No one else. You build this, and you have so much more influence over the social network that your kids are in. You think you can't change it? You can. You could pick up and move out to the middle of Wyoming and live off the land if you really wanted to. No, you don't have to do that, but you can make changes to the social environment of your kids. If you don't like what's going on technologically in your kid's life or your own life, you can make those changes. Do not be a victim to the society telling you every kid that's 14 has to have a cell phone. No, they don't. You get to make those decisions. And if your kid has this or that digital policy, that's your decision. You've made that decision. Own it, buddy. Take ownership of it. Same thing, recreational. All these sports are great. Every parent has to make those decisions. But if it's overwhelming for your family, or you're not having family dinners and it's pulling your family apart, you own it. You got to make those decisions. You got to make those sacrifices. Tough decisions, but it's not the society's or the schools or the team's fault. It's your decision. You got to stand by it and take ownership of it. Same thing for all of those 6 factors. I want parents to stop being victims of their circumstances and take ownership of it, especially the father. He's got to see these 6 things can be their greatest blessings and your greatest curse. I mean, I love sports. They can be the greatest blessing in our life. I have so many great memories, but they can also rip families apart because it can become completely overwhelming. And if it does, it's on you. It's not on the little league. It's not on the high school coach's fault. It's on you. You're the architect. You must build the whole overarching system. And so this is under systems for me, Larry, because I call that macro system. This is the macro environment, the macro system that your family's living and breathing and growing in. And then there's little micro systems like how to get the chores done and do the laundry and pay the bills. That's kind of what people often think about, more systems, which we can talk about, but that's the micro systems. But the more important one is the macro. This is the universe that Larry and his family are living in, and you're the architect. You're the general contractor. You build this thing and no one else. So take ownership. You know it. I'm just preaching, but this is an important thing. I think parents feel, especially dads, we feel like victims and we feel like we're being pushed and pulled. No, no, no. You got to own up.
I agree. I think a lot of that has to do with my wife and I were talking about this. she's like, how do we do everything? Like, and this is what I was talking, we were talking more about like the things coming at us. And I told her, I was like, I think we filter everything through a no first.
Hmm.
Like we actually have to prove to ourselves that this is a good idea that we do it, right? That this will actually move our family along. It'll push us along. Um, I agree with you. I think we're in this season right now, which we've never been, which we're so busy that we aren't having family dinners as often as I'd like. Like last night, we sat down and had a family dinner, and I looked around the table. I was like, "When's the last time we sat down like this?" I was like, because we had family dinner every single night,
Yeah.
and this season it's been, yeah, I've noticed like we're not operating with that zest that Team Hagner operates within. And I think that's because we're just doing too much. We said yes to too much.
And by the
Let me
way, having family dinners 2 a week is on my scorecard. That's a
yeah,
measurable. And if I showed you my scorecard, which I can, it's at home. But if I did it, 2 family dinners per week, doesn't sound like a lot, but it's hard to do. It's hard to pull that off. That's what we're aiming for, and we track it. We track it because we're serious about it.
it's good. That's really good. I actually I would love to have you back for a round two because your content is way too robust to try to fit into 1 hour. But I think we touched upon vision and systems pretty well. But I'd love to have you back to where we could talk about more of the metrics, and I want to talk about relationships and unity and all that. I almost think that our podcast could be a 3-part series, to be
Well, I'd
quite
be honored to
honest.
be back. You got a
Yeah.
great show. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that this is, well, I appreciate you saying that. I think that this topic is way too important to literally just try to squeeze in one episode. So I would definitely welcome, a 3-part series here or a 2-part series if we can fit it in. But
Let's do
this
it.
was awesome. I'm so glad we actually talked about vision and how to even do that. And guys, I highly encourage you to go pick up a copy of The Well Ordered Family by Conor Gallagher. It's really, really good. And guys, let me share this. It's got pictures in it. It's got graphs and stuff. It's got like it's not all words. It's got like really cool stuff you can fill out. So it's got that stuff in there for you too. But yeah, let's do that,
Let's
Connor,
do it.
because I think it'd be great. Um, one more thing before we, first of all, I do want to wish you a very happy anniversary today. I also want to wish you a, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, an early congratulations for the coming of Monica. So that's
Yeah.
really, really cool on the
Oh, thanks,
horizon.
man.
Um, let me ask you this though, as we head out, for men who are leading their families, leading kids, you know, what is one piece of advice you can give us that should be on our radar, the things that we should be doing? And you see most families not doing these things that might be easy to implement.
Boy, what a great question. I think um, I think the answer is this. Since we focused on vision, I'm gonna double down on that today, okay? Because that was what we focused on the most here. Um, I'll tell you what I told my son, who's newly married. They got their first baby on the way, and guess what? I'm not like betraying anything, but every young married couple is going to start fighting on different topics, right? They're conflict. It's just like two humans that are learning to live together. You know what I mean? And one of the things I emphasized to him was I said, look, if you work on filling out this family master plan, okay, what it does, it's a powerful tool because it enables you to get through those rough spots. Men are so focused on getting through the day, decreasing the content. We want to be peacemakers. And, we're just working in the family all day, every day. And sometimes we feel like we reach impassable barriers with our spouses where it's just like, my wife never stops doing this. It's driving me crazy. She won't stop doing that. And we begin to think that this is insurpassable and it's just going to be a suck that we have to bear forever. And I think that wears away at men. It wears away at being a father. And what I'm saying is this: you married this woman most likely because you share your ultimate long-term goals, and something magical happens when pen hits paper. Take that long-term vision that's kind of embedded in your heart, let it come out of your mouth articulate it, put it on paper. What is your vision statement together? Why did God create your family? Why did you guys fall in love? What are you wanting to accomplish long term? The family master plan can kind of help with that. If you don't have to use it, do anything else you want to. Write it on a piece of napkin and stick it on the wall. But the reason you do that is if you can see that's the goal. This big picture is the goal. It helps you get through the small difficulties. You can lose the battles and win the war, but sometimes you think the little battle is the entire war, and it almost never is. So I think we way too often build our hopes and dreams on these one particular issue that our wife and I are fighting like hell on, and we fall apart and we crumble and we think there's no light at the end of the tunnel. The light at the end of the tunnel is your ultimate vision together. And when you focus on that and remind yourself of it by looking at it and talking about it and hanging it on your wall, you realize these small issues that we're fighting over right now, small potatoes. We're in this for the long haul, and we can survive any of these little battles, and we will win the war together. And men, that's your job. That's how you need to focus. That will help you persevere through all the small difficulties that you approach each and every day.
And I love that. Well, guys, not to worry. Stay tuned because there's going to be at least one more show with Conor, if not two, because we're absolutely gonna have him back to broach some of these other topics. Some of the things that we talked about, though, a link to his book as well as his website, his resources. If you go to his website, there's actually some free resources on there, free tools, a free family assessment, which is super cool. You'll actually get to see photos of him, his wife, his family, but all kinds of just really amazing stuff on his website and in his book. Take it from me. Like I said, I've been reading it. So you can go to thedadedge.com/490 for the show. Again, thedadedge.com/490. Conor, this has been awesome. I've really, really enjoyed this. You have really just taken your business savvy knowledge and have implemented it into this beautiful system and an ecosystem of how to operate as a family. I just love it. I wish I would have met you 18 years ago.
Oh, thanks, man. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me, bud.
you
Appreciate it.
bet, brother. Thank you again.